Everybody, welcome to another TD Triple Crown episode of Phil and the Mike. As always, I'm Darrin Michael, and with me, the man who has been presiding over the Baggate scandal, Mr. Phil Calise. Phil, I got to ask you a question. So in terms of professional cornhole, I know that you've been heavily involved in that. So in the championship of the last tournament, one team accused the other team of having uh, non-regulation size bean bags. And it
Mm.
turns out they checked and they found that they were smaller than regulation. And
So
then,
would you say that the bean bags were deflated?
well, but that's the question. But let me just finish this. Let me just set it up, and then you can tell us what
All
happened
right.
when you got involved.
Yeah.
And then they complained. They said, you know what, your bean bags look too small, and they checked the other team, and their bean bags were too small too. So it's been this whole big fiasco, rocking the cornhole world. I mean, it's on the front page of every paper everywhere in this world. And the ruling was found that it was accidental by both teams. And that's why you were brought in to determine
hmm
if this was in fact true. So, what are your findings? The world is waiting to hear what your findings are about this.
Well, I believe it happened on a Friday night, and on Saturday morning, a memo came across my desk saying, "Cheaters accused of cheating, found to be cheating?" Question mark. And I said, "I'm right on it." And I scurried on down to the ATL where the tournament was going on, or Houston, pick your city. I'm not sure where they were hosting it. Feels like Houston or ATL, but I'm not sure. It's been a blur. And and what I found when I started talking to them is they're all idiots.
Yeah,
Everyone in charge there,
yeah,
the
yeah.
four people that throw their beanbaggy sand things in a hole, everybody there is the IQ of a toothpick. And so I washed my hands of it and really just shook all their hands and said, "It's amazing you guys have been able to generate interest in this sport because this is the worst sport I've ever seen in my life."
And not only
And I
that,
walked away.
you have to remember the top guys can make upwards of $250,000 a year doing this.
Amazing. Amazing for going like this while listening to music
I
and
do that.
not.
I do that when I'm driving the car and I get angry too. But
I do that every time I see somebody with a mask on while they're driving,
that's exactly right. Or walking by themselves down the side of the road, et cetera, et cetera.
etc., etc.
Well, good,
Yep.
man. We can always count on you to be everywhere doing everything. I mean, I've never met somebody that is just in such high demand for everything. You are the true sports renaissance man.
Yeah, my new nickname is Locked In. Philly Locked In Khalees. I'm locked into everything. Whatever you need. You need me down looking at a cornhole bag, I'm in. You need me executing a McCaffrey trade, I'm in.
Dude, you are the man.
Whatever
You
you
are the
need. You
man.
need me dissecting why Zach Wilson can't throw the ball out of bounds when he throws the ball away,
Oh,
I'm
geez.
in.
What, man, I don't even know
Whatever
where
you
to
need.
start with that stuff. But before we jump into anything, I just wanted to give you the good news, and that is my over 40 basketball team. We are looking for sponsors. Just want to let everybody know. We are now 7-1 on the season, if you can believe that.
Pretty amazing. And what are you averaging to contribute to the 7 wins?
Well, I was averaging about 10, and then last game I only took 3 shots. I made one, so I only had 3 points last game.
So you brought down the average to about
It was,
6.8.
it's my defensive prowess. The guy that I was guarding the whole game,
You
he
shut him
uh
down.
he was like 0 for 10 from the field. He literally didn't make any points. Missed all of his shots.
So
I like
really what I need to start asking you is forget your point total or any of those important stats we all grew up with. What I really just need to ask you is what your plus minus was for the game.
Well, we were up by 2 points at half and we ended up winning by 20.
Oh, nice.
So I did have a positive plus minus. And I like to think that I contributed to the team because you know what? I can fill in at small forward, but I can also play the two guards. So I like to think that I'm pretty flexible and I
It's all
bring
those
that.
Pilates.
Yeah, I'm big enough that I can guard some of the bigger guys, but
Yep.
I like to say that I'm quick enough that I can handle the ball on the outside, but that's really not
I
true.
like to say that you're evenly distributed in terms of your being unathletic. So you can fit in at the 2 defensively, the 3, the 4, because it all kind of looks the same.
I look at it this way, right? I'm
Is that
playing,
fair or no?
I'm pushing 50. I'm playing basketball. I consider it professional because my wife thinks I'm a hero. So,
That's
uh,
all that matters.
yeah, that's all that
What your
matters.
loved ones think about you is all that matters at the
My
end of the
kids
day.
think that I'm great. They thankfully they don't go to games anymore, but it's all good. It's all good. But anyway, so the only game we lost to was the first game, and I don't know if you remember that one. That's the one where they played a majority of the game with four guys and they beat us.
Got it.
That's not funny. That's not funny. They're 8-0, but that's not funny. Okay, it
All
happens.
right. Well,
It
hey.
happens. So did you watch the baseball game last night?
I watched the first 6 innings. I
Okay.
saw the Astros were up 5-0 with a no-hitter. Woke up to find out the no-hitter kept going.
Impressive, right? I believe this is the second no-hitter of all time in a World Series. The first one obviously was the famous Don Larson perfect game back in, I want to say, 56. But that's pretty impressive, especially when the team just beat the crap out of you the game before. So series is tied 2-2.
Yeah.
Last night the Phillies had 27 at bats, three bases of balls, 14 strikeouts. So they did not play well. They were overpowered. It's the most, I would say it's probably the most dominating performance of a World Series in at
Well,
least the last
since
50 years,
since the
right?
day before when they whooped them 7-0 and hit 6 home runs, yeah, I would say it's the most dominating since the day before.
I don't think, no, I
Yeah,
don't
I
think so.
would
They
say
didn't even get any
exactly that. The
hits.
Astros did nothing the day before and were
They didn't,
dominated.
they didn't even get any hits. That's why I'm saying it's
Understood, understood. But
half,
for
half of
my
their
brain,
bats, half of their bats ended up in a strikeout.
understood. You know
So
what I think about the World Series? Let me just give you 1 minute.
no, I don't want to know.
Cool.
I don't want to know. You're
This is
being
going to
mean.
be a horrible podcast with this kind of, with this kind of,
Well,
with
there
this,
goes the podcast right there.
with
We
this
don't
kind of
we,
banter. This
we
is
don't
going to be
want
a rough one.
any of Phil's
Can I give you
explanations
1 minute?
today.
No.
No opinions. All
Okay.
right, go ahead. Come on, come on. We'll let you have this one. We'll see how you do.
I, I think it's as simple as if you look at a lot of these World Series, the momentum tends to just roll in these World Series, right? So it's interesting. This series has defied the last bunch of years, meaning
Yeah, yeah,
game one, the Astros jump out to a 5-0 lead, blow the game. The Phillies have incredible momentum. The Astros come back and win game two, kind of take the momentum away.
yep.
But the Phillies go back home to a raucous atmosphere. I mean, Houston was good, Phillies in another level. Blow them out in game three. And then they stop the momentum cold the next night with a no hitter, which is icing on the cake. The no hitter doesn't count for any more than one loss, so it doesn't matter.
In
But
the
it's going to be
series,
very
right?
interesting that this has not been a series of runs. It's been a win loss, win loss.
Yeah,
So, I mean, at this point now, it feels like it's shaping up to go seven, and it feels like it's going to be epic. Just you get some of these World Series that happen like this, but in the past, it seemed like whoever got steamrolling, they just were impossible to stop. This series feels like every time you think like after Game Three,
yeah,
there was people in the media talking about can Houston even get it back to Houston,
yeah,
or
yeah.
is this thing going to end in Philly in five? And now quickly it's become Houston's the favorite again. Like literally, that's the kind of series it's been. Amazing.
It's been incredible. It's interesting. I saw that too, and people forget this is a really great Houston team. Just because they're down 2-1 doesn't mean that they're out. And like you said, I mean it's game by game. So now they are going back to Houston. Now the big concern is this is the battle of the I don't know what's going to happen. You've got Verlander who's 0-6 in the World Series in his career versus Noah Syndergaard, who let's be honest. I mean nobody even knew the guy was still alive. So
That's what happens when you leave the Mets and
that's
your
right.
thick
It's
and your
exactly right.
nickname and Thor and everything that goes with it goes to LA into anonymity.
So it's we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Syndergaard is not nearly the pitcher that he was at one time, and Verlander can't pitch in the World Series. So I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen? I mean, maybe this game will be 10-10 going into the 15th inning.
I would like to have a redo on my titling of this series.
Yes.
This series, when you have a red hot team who didn't have a great year, but is just silly hot how great they became overnight. Even Nick Castellanos playing like a gold glover in right field saved them in game one, made a diving catch in game three. This guy's a bad DH defensively. And this guy's playing all world. And then you got the Astros who just hummed along with their 106 wins.
Yeah.
This is the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. That's what this series has become, or that's what this series really was.
Yeah.
Who wins in a winner take all World Series 7-game series when you have a team that's just out of their mind hot meeting a team that's been amazing all year? And
Yeah.
that's really and that's how you end up at 2-2. Because let's face it, in the past series, after the Phillies put a 7 spot and knock a team in the mouth like they did, these other National League teams didn't get off the deck. They just got pounded and they never were able to stop the momentum. The
That's true.
Astros have again, twice in a series, stopped the momentum. So it's interesting. And it's going to take, to beat a team this hot, I mean, if you watch the Philly at bats outside of yesterday, all right, one bad game, but outside of yesterday, they hit every mistake for a home run. They're taking some of the best at bats you've ever seen
Yeah.
for a collective group that let's face it, outside of Bryce Harper, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, these are 210 hitters. I mean, I'm not making this up. Rhys Hoskins is a 210 hitter.
Yeah.
Kyle
Yeah.
Schwarber hits a lot of home runs, but he bats 210.
Yeah.
Alec Baum, all these different guys, Nick Castellanos. I mean, these guys are 220, 215, 225 hitters who are taking every mistake and hitting it in the seats.
Yeah.
So they're as hot as can be. So it's going to be a fun last 3 games, and it's probably going to go 7. So
Seems like it. Seems like.
seems
Well,
like we're destined.
the good news is after another thing they were talking about after game 3, they were talking about how upset Mattress Mac was.
I know.
But the funny thing was I was watching a show called My 600-Pound Life last night, and it was
That's
My 600-Pound
disgusting. Why
Life.
you would watch that makes me have less good things to say about
It
you,
was
honestly.
Where Are They Now? And the guy that they were talking about, he I got into the middle of it, and he weighed 580. Now check this out. He had weighed 585 pounds, and he had already lost 420 pounds.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's now settled in to be a normal human.
The guy was over 1,000 pounds, right? Anyway, so
he's 600 pounds still.
he was 585 when I was watching it, and he had already lost 420 pounds.
How could you get that big and not die first?
I mean, dude,
it makes me want to keep eating the way I eat, to be honest with you, when I hear stories like that.
Listen, our largest breasts I've ever seen in the world. It was incredible. But anyway, the point of that is that it was during the time that Houston had that bad hurricane. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, this guy was moving. He moved into an apartment, and all his stuff was destroyed. So Mattress Mac was actually giving away furniture to all the people that lost everything in this thing. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about, because we've talked about how this guy, how he's going to give back all the money that he wins if he wins, and it turns out the guy really is a great guy. And I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, I was curious what happened with the guy, and at the very end, it just said like he died like right after the filming, because he was down to 4 something, and then he was up to 700, and it was just like, and they're like no cause of death has been reported, and I'm like, you don't have to tell me the cause of death. I think I can figure it out.
You don't have to tell me either. It was COVID. Move on.
He definitely died of COVID. 100%. 100%.
100%.
So baseball is going to be exciting to watch. I'm really, really pumped to see how that plays out this weekend. I wanted to talk a little college football, because there was a couple surprising things this week. And I remember I was picking my games, and my 1-point game, which is the one that I was least confident in, I picked Kansas State to beat Oklahoma State. And then I'm watching all this stuff, and in the middle of the day, I'm like, you know what? I think Oklahoma State is playing well. I think I need to switch it. So I switched to Oklahoma State, and then Kansas State won 48-0. It just goes to show that, the number 22 team beats the number 9 team 48-0. That there's
the
a problem.
Rankings may be off a bit.
There's a problem with the rankings. Or Louisville beats number 10 Wake Forest. They spank them by 4 touchdowns. Or Notre Dame beats number 16 Syracuse by 2 touchdowns. I'm so tired of the same conversations.
As a Notre Dame fan, I'd like to correct you. They won by 17, but that's fine.
Oh, 17. Okay, I'm sorry. It was a little more. I was reading this wrong. It's a little more. It was a little more than 2 touchdowns. Okay. Yep. I'm so tired of these rankings, because they're all a bunch of crap.
But you know what the thing too is with the rankings. So and by the way, none of what you're saying would change with like my tweak, which my tweak was always start the rankings October 1, because at least you have a month of a sample to rank them properly and not be so off. They're still ranking teams so off. And if you think about it, there's a couple reasons why. And it's really why the committee probably should now be the only rankings. And I don't love everything about the playoff committee, don't get me wrong, but those people are actually tasked with
Yep.
watching all the games.
Yeah.
Now, do they watch all the games? I have no idea. But that's what they're tasked with doing. But these AP writers and the coaches, right? You have the coaches poll and the AP poll. There's no way they're watching all the games. First of all, the coaches are watching no games. They're
Yep.
watching their own game. They're preparing for their own game, and they may have a bias towards their own conference because
Yep.
they just want to prop up their own conference. Outside of that, they're the least people that should be voting because they're not watching anything.
That's true.
And then the writers, they're locked in on games, but they're not locked in on the whole country's games. They're locked in regionally. So if you're a West Coast writer, you know the West Coast. If you're an East Coast, Northeast, South, whatever, So neither of those really should be ranking anybody. The playoff committee should start October 1st instead of November 1st, basically. And they should just start ranking the playoff.
Yeah.
They should just start ranking October 1. And they should have a little bit of an answer to the public as to why.
Yep.
This is what we see, and that's what they should just do, because it's complete garbage. The rankings are absolute trash, and I think the coaches polls even worse than the writers poll, because the
Yeah.
coaches have no business voting. They don't watch games.
No.
They watch their own team and they watch film of the games of the teams they're going to face. That's it.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
So that's my rant on why the coaches poll really shouldn't exist.
No, you're 100% right. 100% right. And then you heard about the Michigan State Michigan game
I
where
heard about the fighting in the tunnel.
yeah, Michigan pummeled them 29-7,
But
and
then
then
got pummeled after the game.
and then they got the Michigan State guys were waiting in the tunnel and just beat the crap out of some of these guys. And so far, 8 guys from Michigan State have been suspended. I mean, nice sportsmanship. I realize that's a rivalry, but my God, man,
Those people should have assault and battery brought up against them. I think they are.
I think they will. I mean, we'll see how it shakes out. I don't know if
That's not a football fight on a field. That's in a locker afterwards. It was a ganging up on. Like, I think, first of all, I'd love to know where the Michigan players support team. Like, where's the rest of the team? What happened?
Were these the guys that were kind of the stragglers that came in at the end? I
don't be a straggler at the end.
Yeah, I
hey
know,
guys,
right?
wait up.
I know. Yeah, there's a few guys that were still on the field being interviewed, and then they came in I mean, who knows? But I'm excited because to me, this week is going to be the game of the year. And I can't wait for you to pick this game. I'm assuming you're going to pick this game since it is the top game, and that is Tennessee and Georgia. I am so excited. Tennessee just keeps steamrolling everybody. They're ranked number 3 right now. They beat the number 19 Kentucky team.
No, they're ranked number 1 right now.
They are ranked number. You're right. They are ranked number 1. So they beat the number 19 Kentucky team 44-6. I mean, these guys are just rolling. Yeah. So let's just go right into it, man. Let's go into Phil's Big 3 because that has to be a game. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on what's going to shake out on that game.
Well, the thing is, so I guess if we're going right into that, I went 0-3 last week.
I didn't want to mention that.
And no, I got to own an 0-3 when you own it. And it's funny because a theme of my picks has been either on or off the bandwagon with Tennessee. And I've gotten caught a little bit in, I mean, let's face it, for the last 2 decades, for the last 25 years, the 2 schools most overrated is the 2 T's, Texas and Tennessee.
Yep.
I mean, they seem to be overly rated all the time. But like some people say like Notre Dame's overrated. My gosh, Tennessee's had 3-win seasons, though, when they start in the polls in the top 25. Notre Dame just doesn't win a big game. There's a very big difference. Notre Dame piles up 9 and 10 win seasons a lot. Tennessee will go like 4-7 when they were preseason number 8. Like it's really bad. Same thing with Texas sometimes. So here's the thing with Tennessee. They obviously, so Heupel gets there, right? 35-year-old coach or whatever he is, young guy, immediately turns around a program. The funny part is when people talk about how valuable college football or NFL coaches are, look no further than Josh Heupel, because the one thing about Tennessee, and the NIL money has probably helped a little bit, but
Mhm.
Tennessee's had good recruiting classes
Yeah. Yeah.
that never manifests on the field. Like never. And then Josh Heupel gets there and they had like 25 people transfer. And they had like a crazy, they were like 4-7, 25 people transferred or so. And it shows you how valuable a great coach is.
Yeah.
You could turn a program around overnight. I mean, it's amazing. Now, they have the amount of talent that Georgia has? No, they don't. I mean, Georgia's in their peak run in their history. They're at the apex of their history. Georgia's had some good good program, good teams over the years. They have
Yep.
not had like a dynasty type of run where they've had all this great 5-star recruits. This is it. This is the pinnacle of it. I think it'll eventually fade back because I don't think Georgia's that team long term. But right now, talent's in the South. They're keeping a lot of it. The coach is doing an amazing job. They're coming off a national title. 8 points feels like a lot. Um, and Georgia just lost one of their best defensive players.
That is a lot of points. That is
It's
a
a lot
lot.
of points. Tennessee believes. Do they go to Georgia and win this game? I'm going to say what I love best about Tennessee in this game is, and I don't want to knock the little guy. And by little guy, I mean, Spencer, Stanford, Sebastian. What's the quarterback's name on Georgia?
Oh, Stenson Bennett the eighth.
Yeah, yeah. Stetson Bennett the eighth. I don't want to knock
Oh,
him.
I'm Stetson Bennett the eighth.
I don't want to knock him. But if I get a chance to take the better quarterback and I get 8 points, I'm going to take the better quarterback with the 8 points. So I'm going to take Tennessee +8 because I think they're going to score some. Obviously, Georgia's got a good D, but I think they're going to score some. And I think Stetson Bennett the eighth is going to have trouble in this game. And I think you're going to be looking at like a lower scoring game. This isn't going to be, to me, Alabama, Tennessee. This is going to be like 27-24 Georgia.
See, this is another thing.
Or 27-24 Tennessee. I'm not sure.
This is another thing that I understand, right? You got the number one team playing the number three team, and the number three team is favored by 8 points. Like
Wow.
for one, if you've got a 1 and a 3, I don't think that spread should be 8 points. I mean, you're talking about two really good teams.
Yeah, but don't get caught up in that. Vegas looks at the whole picture when they
I
make their
know, but I get
spread.
caught up in that.
Yeah, you do. That's why you can never win money in Vegas. You'd be a sucker's bet every time.
Well, that's why I'm the one that doesn't make the picks.
I know. Well, in this
And
case, I
again,
am going with you. In this case, I'm leaning on Tennessee +8, but I have a
yes.
different perspective. I'm taking what I think is the better quarterback, and I get 8 points,
Okay.
acknowledging that Georgia at home is worth X amount of points. So, it's worth 5 or 6 points to me. So to me, they're saying Georgia's, a 2 to 3 point favorite
Yeah.
on, let's say, a neutral site. And Tennessee is an 8 point underdog in Georgia. Because I think college football is worth more than 3. Like the NFL, they always said 3 points for being home.
Yeah.
That's kind of always been the thing. I think college,
I
a
think you
good
get more
college
than that.
atmosphere is worth 5 or 6. Yeah, I don't think, I think that was an old school, and I do think it might hold true in the NFL. In the NFL, I don't think there's huge home field advantages. Maybe a couple teams. The ticket prices got too high. Nobody's screaming their brains out in the NFL. You ever see these places? This is corporate America in the NFL stadiums.
That's true.
It's a very different world outside of maybe Seattle in their heyday,
Yeah.
or if the Cleveland Browns are ever good for a period because they're psycho. Like there's a few spots, but give me a good college stadium. I'll say that's worth 5 or 6 points.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair
So,
enough.
but I'll take Tennessee +8.
Okay.
Great
What's
game
the
coming
next
up.
game?
Yep.
What's your next game?
So next game, I mean, I'll stay in the SEC because now LSU has magically popped up to number 10 in the country according to the college football playoff rankings,
It's your
and they're
boy with the
facing
fake Southern
Alabama.
accent. I love it.
Yeah, my family. We went down to Baton Rouge, because of my family. Meanwhile, he talks like this: Brian Kelly, how you doing? All right, let's go. So here's the deal. Do I want to pick LSU in this game? I do not want to pick LSU in this game. Do I think this is remotely vintage Alabama? I do not think this is remotely vintage Alabama. 13.5 in Baton Rouge.
Wow.
Feels like Vegas wants me to take LSU so Alabama could put a thumping on them. And I'm going to be a sucker again, and I'm going to take the points because it just seems like too many points. It just does. Now, LSU is 6-2. and LSU had a game where they were about to get blown out to someone. It was like 20, it was like 17-0 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And then they got a pick six and it turned the game around. I forget who it was against. Maybe it was Mississippi or Kentucky, or I don't remember. And then they blew them out in the second half. They like made a huge comeback and blew them out. So LSU could very easily have 3 losses.
Yeah.
LSU's had a little bit of a wacky season. Um, Very impressive in their win over, who was the game? Florida. They dumped Florida, right? Um, they've had some good wins, LSU. I think Brian Kelly has stabilized the program. And listen, Brian Kelly is a very good coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you take over for Marble Throat, it's going to be a lot easier to move the needle. Okay. Because that guy was dumber than a box of marbles stuck in his throat. So
Yes.
I feel like, Eddie O to Brian Kelly, that is a big upgrade at any way you slice it. So do I
Well,
think LSU's got a shot in this game? No, I don't think they have a shot to win,
yeah.
but 13.5 does feel like a lot. So I'm going to take it.
Well, the interesting about this game, when you look at the upcoming schedules of both teams, they're both in first place in their division. They're tied for first. So you can kind of make an argument that probably whoever wins this game is going to be in the SEC championship game.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah, I mean, Alabama's desperate. Like Alabama,
big time.
well, Alabama's out of the playoff if they lose this game anyway. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'll tell you what it actually does. Here's an interesting thing. Very good point you brought up there. You didn't
Thank
even
you.
mean to bring it up, but you're so subconsciously smart that you brought up the best point of the day. And
You
here's the
know,
deal.
the way it is.
No, but this is why. On the same day that Tennessee and Georgia meet in the East to basically determine who wins the East, the West will be also determined today. But here's really the best thing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If LSU somehow upsets Alabama, it actually paves the way for both Georgia and Tennessee to make the playoff.
Yeah.
Because if Alabama's out and 2-loss LSU is the representative of the West, it's almost a certainty that Tennessee or Georgia beats them in the title game anyway.
True. True.
And if Tennessee just, let's say, plays a good game after already beating Alabama, they're going to have a very good chance to be the 4 seed.
You're absolutely 100% right. 100%
So
right.
Tennessee should be desperately rooting for Alabama to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just eliminate them, get them out of the equation, because Alabama will be the monkey wrench for everyone, and then they wouldn't be at all. So interesting. The East and the West will be decided today.
It's for the most
Saturday,
part,
not
yeah.
tonight. Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. 4 top 10 teams based on the playoff rankings. I don't think LSU is really the 10th team, but all right, still go
It's
with
exciting. It's
it.
definitely
Yeah, good stuff. And let me close it with my best bet. And I'm gonna leave you puzzled and bewildered by this pick. I'm gonna leave you gobsmacked in the mouth. My best bet is picking against Notre Dame this week.
Really?
It's my best bet. My best bet is picking against Notre Dame. Clemson is laying 3.5 in South Bend.
Wow.
Now, on the surface, it also feels like a trap, because why is Clemson only laying 3.5 in Notre Dame?
That's a
right.
great question.
Clemson's ranked what, 5th, 6th, something, 4th,
Something
5th,
like,
6th.
yeah, they're something like that.
Yeah.
Clemson's 4th.
4th. So they're a playoff team at the moment.
Yep. Yep.
They've had moments where they haven't looked like a top 4 team, but oddly enough, people don't realize this. They're the only top 4 team that has 3 wins over the playoffs top 25. So in terms of resume wins, they actually have a pretty good resume on paper.
Yeah.
But this game doesn't get back to anything like that for me. This gets down to, and there's no team I watch more closely than Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost their starting quarterback after week 1.
Yep.
Their backup quarterback is ready for this comparison. He's Stetson Bennett, but with less talent. That's what he is. He's a less mobile, more inaccurate, worse armed 5'11" quarterback.
Really?
Okay, so that's who Notre Dame's had to manage the season with. So Notre Dame has 3 really good running backs. They run down people's throat. They have a really good offensive line, but they have no ability to beat you vertically. And they have a quarterback who's immobile. And their new backup quarterback is a true freshman who they've not been inclined to play. So they've went with the junior quarterback that's more seasoned after the starter missed the year, hurt. And if you look at Notre Dame's season, they've actually had a weird season. Like they played Ohio State close week 1. They
Yep.
played them good. They were winning into the fourth quarter. They lost. They have a head scratching loss to Marshall because, again, the quarterback was hurt and this quarterback stinks. So they
Yeah.
can lose to anyone. And they've got a couple of good wins. They beat North Carolina. That's North Carolina's only loss. And they
Yep.
beat them up. They went to Syracuse and pounded them after Clemson struggled with them. So they got some things that you'd say, oh, maybe this is a game they could win. No shot, because there's no way in my mind Dabo Sweeney, who I think is a top 3 coach.
Yep.
I think when you look at the top 3 coaches, it's the Georgia coach, it's the Alabama coach, and it's him. And I just cannot fathom Notre Dame being as one-dimensional with as bad of a quarterback could beat Clemson in this game. So to me, I think this is like the lock of the century -3.5. I think it's a bad spread. I think it's just a bad spread.
Let me ask you this now. Does this come into when you think about this, does this thought come into your mind, the fact that one of the quarterbacks on the Notre Dame team is Ron Powlus the third?
He's the new third string quarterback, and he's only there because his dad went to school there, I think.
I could have told you that one. That was just a guess, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he was a very highly recruited.
He was on the cover of SI when
I
he
mean,
was
he
in
was
like a
big time.
he was the new he was Manning, the nephew before Manning. Like that was the kind of hype he had.
Did he even play in the NFL? I can't even remember.
I don't think so.
I mean, he
And
was
he
just,
didn't actually have a bad career at Notre Dame. He actually won some big games and was pretty good, but the hype was he could never. It was
it
insane.
was too much. It's like being Michael Jordan's son.
He got swallowed up in the hype machine. Plus, he went like 9-2 a couple of years, and you would have thought he went 2-9, like because the hype was too much.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well
So that's how I close it. So I go Tennessee +8, LSU +13.5, and Clemson laying 3.5 as my best bet. I feel really good about Clemson. I'm 4-4 in best bets, so I don't have the greatest track record this year. I'm only 500. I feel so uber confident Clemson. I don't want to say they blow out Notre Dame, but it's like real. I think it's a comfortable 10 to 14 point win.
You're feeling it. You're feeling it. I believe it. I believe it. Well, that's good. I mean, it's going to be a great college football weekend with those huge games in the SEC. But let's move on to a little NFL. I got 6 thoughts for you. I need your opinion on these things. Number 1, at a record of 5-1, 70% completion percentage, 112.7 rating, 1,678 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Do you finally believe in Tua? Are you starting to become a believer? I can see you're trying to figure out what to say with that.
I think it's as simple as this. They've surrounded him with 2 all-pro receivers that are on top of it blazing fast.
Yep.
Am I a believer in Tua? I mean, no, I'm just not. I'm not. But it's a combination of factors, and I've always said to you, the injury factor, his frame and his lack of mobility, I think all gets put into the equation. So for me, there's just a lot of things that worry me about him. That's all. It's not a knock on Tua per se. There's just things that worry me about him, especially if you're talking to me, is he like a long-term, quarterback that's a top 5 or 10 quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years? It's hard for me to say yes to that. It just is. But did they surround him with as good of a talent around him? I mean, they got an uber talented tight end in Gesicki, who's just an athlete. They got 2 amazing receivers. So they've given him a lot of talent. I agree.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. The one thing that I think that we could both agree on is that he's playing much better than everybody else thought he was going to this year. I mean, this is a guy that they have been allegedly shopping now for a couple seasons. And it turns out he could very well be a Pro Bowl quarterback at the end of the season. So,
oh yeah, he's having a Pro Bowl season for sure.
He's having a great year.
But he does have to be able to stay on the field.
That's the thing.
And that's always been my biggest issue with him. So,
all right, number two. I don't know if you watched this. I mean, I watched this game because obviously I live here, but Atlanta versus Carolina.
Didn't see a play.
Okay.
except for the Hail Mary. I saw the Hail Mary.
Okay. DJ Moore. It's funny how you go from hero to GOAT in a matter of 5 seconds, but with 24 seconds left, he catches a 62-yard Hail Mary
Mm-hmm.
touchdown after the Falcons went up by 6 points late in that game. And here you are thinking, oh my God, they tie the game, and all they have to do is hit an extra point. Well, this numbnuts takes off his helmet. He gets called for a penalty, 15-yard penalty. The PATs are already like 35 yards. So it's a 50-yard PAT, and Eddie Pinheiro comes out, the ex-Jet, and he misses it. So now we go to overtime. Okay. And Atlanta throws an interception. Carolina has the ball. They line up for a 32-yard field goal to win the game. This is a guy that's got a serious leg. Did great for the Jets last evening, even though they cut him, and he's having a good year. And he misses a 32-yard field goal. So let me ask you this. For Carolina, is this a good showing or a bad showing? And would you have cut the kicker after that game?
I don't know about cutting the kicker, but can I rant for just 30 seconds?
Please can.
When they decided to move the extra point back, I'm
Yep.
fine with it because they said, like, 19-yard extra points are too easy and we want more drama with the kicking. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
But then if there's a penalty
Yep.
on a touchdown that's going to move it back, I think it should be like, I don't think it should move back 15 yards from I don't think an extra point should ever be kicked from 50 yards away because you decided to arbitrarily move a kick back for regular kicks. I think there's got to be some type of catch-all medium thing there where, like, a penalty can only move it back 5 yards because you're already at the 35 or something. I don't know. Now, should he still be able to make a 49-yard extra point? I guess, but like, that penalty seems too prohibitive because of the rule that moves the field goal back already all that way.
Yep.
I just have a problem with that. I also have a problem with throwing the flag on him in that spot. I do. I don't care about the Falcons. I'm fine with the Falcons winning. I just think both of those things to me to ruin an ending of a game just feel wrong, but whatever.
I mean, listen,
I wouldn't cut the kicker, but it is pretty amazing that Carolina traded away everybody and they should be 2-0 without all those parts.
when you think about it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about. So, needless to say, it was a good game. Number 3, the Raiders. On the show, we keep saying that they're a decent team, and then they go to New Orleans and they lose.
Can't say that anymore.
They lose 24-0 to New Orleans. So here's the question: what is going on there? And is it just maybe Josh McDaniels can't coach?
I mean, maybe it's that. And remember, I said, though, that's a travel across the country to a 1:00 time zone is brutal. Yeah. You talked me out of it, and you're like, it's really Central Time. All right.
I mean, it was, but
it was such a technicality. They laid an egg. They were playing at 10 a.m.
I mean,
that's what it felt like. They might have been playing at 6 a.m. the way they played.
It was awful. It was awful.
Well, no, I think the bigger thing is, maybe the coach, but I mean, could Carr take a bigger step back? When have you ever seen a quarterback who had a massive year get a top 3 receiver get traded to him or sign with the team and go backwards that far backwards? I mean, that's what's crazy. Like, that's what's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for it. So you got to put everything on the table. Is it the coach? Maybe. The quarterback's got to take a big hit for his performance this year. You can't lose 24-0 to a mediocre Saints team.
No.
Oof. I mean, there's just so many things wrong with that team right now.
Yeah,
and you got to put everything on the table. I mean,
and the sad thing is they have talent. They have talent on that team.
They got a running back who's on pace for 1,400 yards with a top 3 receiver and a quarterback who was coming off a 4,500-yard monster season. And they lost 24-0. They didn't lose 45-42. I don't get it.
I mean, I don't get it. They just got destroyed. But anyway, sticking with the same theme here, I want to talk number 4, the Packers, who were probably a lot of people's choice to come out of the NFC this year.
Your choice.
They lost their 4th game in a row. I mean, how do you fix this? I mean, they are just not playing well.
Well, and they're not playing well. They're not scoring enough. Unlike the Raiders, they have a lack of weapons, and that's clear. That's true. Like, they actually have a lack of weapons. They have another season of wasting Aaron Rodgers. Like, when they decided to, or when Adams decided to not sign there, I know at the last minute they tried to lock him in and they threw a boatload of money at him and he wanted to go play with his best friend. Clearly, that's not working out well, but that's what he wanted to do. And so you can't stop it. How they didn't pivot to something substantial to
Yeah.
make up for it. And
Yeah.
then at the deadline, didn't even acquire a receiver when
No.
Claypool got moved. I think the Jets would have considered Elijah Moore at the right package. I think another receiver went. Wasn't there another receiver that got traded? Um, Plus, we know that in the offseason,
Yeah.
after Devontae Adams went to the Raiders,
Yeah.
all the big receivers were traded. Tyreek Hill was traded. The AJ Brown, who's been a monster for the Eagles, was
Yep.
traded.
Yep.
Obviously, probably what's his face could have been pried away, and then he ultimately stayed. The Niners receiver, Debo Samuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Amari Cooper was traded, I think, wasn't he, to the Browns? Yeah.
Browns. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, all these big guys moved. They're all being, except for Devontae Adams, oddly enough, who's having a bad year. All these receivers are having pretty big impacts. Tyreek
So,
Hill's had a monster year, and they
oh,
give Aaron
geez.
Rodgers nothing.
Well,
It's crazy.
let me ask you this. I mean, remember they looked like they were going to have that big divorce last year, and Aaron Rodgers wins his second
Yep.
MVP. And they throw a boatload of money at him. I mean, did he come back for any other reason but the money? Because the things that he was complaining about
He would have
before,
got the money elsewhere.
yeah, but the things that he was complaining about before haven't changed. He was complaining that he didn't have any pieces. He still doesn't have any pieces. So what was that whole thing last year, and why haven't the Packers done anything to adjust that? I mean, here you've got a double in a two-time in a row MVP, and you
Yeah.
can't put anybody on the field to help this guy. I mean, come on.
When you look back at, yeah, I don't know. I can't say it was just about the money. I think Aaron Rodgers bought into, and I'm sure the Packers, if they were smart, and they're a good organization, by the way. We're beating them up right now, but they're a good organization. I mean, any organization that could say in the last 3 decades have had two starting quarterbacks, basically, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, is doing something right. So they know what they're doing. But I think the Packers probably more than the money sold Aaron Rodgers on the legacy of playing for one team, because Brett Favre kind of ruined it a little when he ended up leaving to go play for the Jets, who did he play for? The
Vikings.
Vikings, the Jets, this one. I mean, he kind of towards the end of his career, he went all over the place. I think they sold him on play in Green Bay your whole career. What I think they miscalculated is his greatness would make up for all their faults. And I think at a certain age, even Aaron Rodgers, like Tom Brady knew, I need to get out of New England. I'm not as good anymore. I need talent around me.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
did the whole kind of mediocre talent thing and make it work, but like Aaron Rodgers needs a legit one. He needs some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he won an MVP with Devontae Adams. He needs some talent. Like
Yeah.
he's a shell of himself in part two, because not only did they lose Devontae Adams, they tried to replace Devontae Adams with just like no named receivers and young receivers.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
tough. That's tough.
It's really
So
tough. It's really tough. Well, let's move on. Number 5, I want to talk about the Bengals because we're all writing them off, and then they start playing better. And then last week they just get absolutely obliterated, 32-13, where they scored all 13 of their points in the fourth quarter
yeah, they got
to
destroyed.
Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, who nobody has been high on this year. So the question is this all because there's no Jamar Chase?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
think
mean,
it's just that?
I think it's a huge loss. Now, why they gave up 32 points is not Jamar Chase per se, but yeah, I mean, when you look at the numbers Jamar Chase has put up, when you realize Burrow throws a great deep ball and Jamar Chase is top 3 deep route runner,
Yep.
yeah, I think they're gonna have to survive this period of time until he comes back. Now, the issue for the Bengals might just be they don't survive the next 4 to 6 weeks. Like they're only 4-4. This is where not getting off to a great start is going to hurt them because they don't
Yep.
have a lot of margin for error.
That's
They
right.
got to try to be 6-6 when he comes back. Then I think they're okay, but they can't be like 5-8 or
Yeah.
5-7. I think might even be too big of So I think they need to figure out a way to be 500 while he's gone.
Yeah.
See if
Yeah.
they can.
I
But yeah,
agree.
you can't. He's a massive loss. I mean, you can't replace him.
And number 6, the last one I want to talk about with this dismantling of the Rams this week. Are the 49ers the best team in the NFC?
In the NFC or the NFC West?
In the NFC, do you put them
No.
up there? You still think the Eagles are the better team?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are the better team. I
But
mean, and
you think the 49ers have a solid hold on being the second best team in the NFC? What do you think?
I mean, do I think they'll catch the Seahawks, who they're a game back of, and win the West? Without a doubt.
Yeah,
And is the NFC so bad that the Niners at 4-4, because they are 4-4,
they are.
are the Niners the second best team in the NFC? You could definitely make a case for that. I do think the Cowboys will have a lot to say about it because the Cowboys have a very good defense and enough offense to complement that very good defense that I think
Yep.
in terms of like the total package, if I was a betting man, I think the Cowboys are slightly better than the Niners. When both teams are healthy, I think the Cowboys are slightly better. I think the Eagles are better. So I would actually peg the Niners in at 3. I'm not a believer in the Vikings. So if they turn around to finally put it all together and play a whole season of great football, God bless them. But I don't trust Kirk Cousins. So
Yep.
I'm just not going to put the Vikings in that category.
I agree.
And then when you look at the rest of the NFC, it's god awful.
It's bad. I know it's
And
bad.
I know the Giants are 6-2, but they're not great.
No, they're not
So
a great team. No.
so it's the AFC is much better. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been saying that all year. It's just much better.
much better. Let's move on to Phil's game ball, and I'm excited about this. I got
Let's do it.
three great performances. Two of them are all-time great performances. We got Tua, 29 of 36, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, QB rating of 138.7 in a 31-27 comeback victory at the Detroit Lions. Impressive showing. Derrick Henry, 32 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns in a 17-10 win at Houston. He actually ties OJ Simpson. Yes, OJ
The
Simpson is
juice.
back in the news.
The
Ties
juice.
OJ Simpson and Adrian Peterson for the most 200-yard games in a career with 6. That's impressive. And then we've got Christian McCaffrey, who won the touchdown, who earned the touchdown triple crown last week
Mm-hmm.
with a touchdown passing, a touchdown rushing, and a touchdown receiving. One of, I think, 11 guys in history to do that, but the only guy ever to have at least 30 yards passing, 30 yards running, and 30 yards receiving in a game. So what are your thoughts on who the game ball goes to this week?
So that's quirky and really fun and a cool stat. But to me, it's overwhelmingly Mr. Derrick Henry. He's just a workhorse. He's just a monster, dude. And the thing about Derrick Henry is when you face the Titans, that's the only guy you have to stop and nobody can
Yeah,
stop him.
yeah,
That's what makes it so impressive to me.
it's
Like
true.
you go in to face Tennessee, you got to put 8 in the box and just say, I'll let anybody else beat me. There's no more AJ Brown. They're not dynamic at receiver. They're not dynamic at quarterback. And he still gets 219 on the ground. It's a man amongst boys.
He is a man amongst boys. All right, it's time. It's time. Last week, fill up your bank account 2-2. You did win your lock.
True.
13 and 12, 4-3 on the season. So
Yeah, I'm hanging. I'm just
very average, man. I mean, you're still above 500, but you really need to pull an undefeated week here to get
listen.
that.
I'll be the first to admit my whole season's been. It's.
Well, the NFL season has been
I mean, I haven't fallen off a cliff. I recovered from the 0-3 start, which is always
sure,
tricky when you're only picking
sure.
3 games. So I put myself in a whole week 1, but just annoying. It's just
All
I've
right.
been so mediocre, down on
Well,
myself.
you know what? Listen, man, there's been a
Yeah.
lot of great emails and calls that have come in, thousands and thousands of emails talking about how, you know what, Phil, you can do it. Come on, make me some money this week. There's a
Yeah.
lot of support out there. So let's hear it, man. Let's hear it. Give us some
Declan
tips.
in Salt Lake City sent me a note saying, "You got this, bud." I'm like, "Hey, Declan, thanks a lot, buddy. I
Good
appreciate
job,
that."
Declan. Yeah, Declan's been a great listener of ours for I don't he actually has written us many times and he's
A
never
fill
missed
in the
an
mic pin coming your way, Declan. Once we make them, we don't have any budget, but once we make them. Well, I was thinking we get a voting pin. You know how it's voting season, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
little fill in the mic voting pin. Just pop that on you if you're a proud listener.
There you
You know,
go.
spread them out all over the country. We can make 40 or 50 should cover it. Um, so all right. So here I'm gonna have an interesting take this week because I'm gonna do something that usually is a definitive big fat no way, don't do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I'm gonna take bad teams this week,
Oh,
which is not a good way to usually make a living. It's certainly not a good way to bet the mortgage on, but so be it. So we're going to go with the biggest mismatch of the week, which happens on a Thursday,
Okay.
where the Philadelphia Eagles walk into Houston to take on the Texans. They're clearly much better than the Texans. We all know this. This bet for me is a bet against two things. It's a bet against the Eagles just don't take the Texans super seriously. It's that's for one. I feel like that's one of the main reasons. And I also feel like the Texans are a 1-5-1 team, but they've played teams tougher for the most part than their record indicates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they've actually been fairly competitive for a 1-5-1 team.
It's
And I
true.
think again, your co-host picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. So it's probably one of the more incredible picks of all time because you laughed at it and didn't even think they were a good team. And I gave you them as a Super Bowl team.
Well, let's
But
see
I
what
think
happens.
even a great team is going to have a hiccup or two during a long NFL season. So give me the Texans plus 13.5. Am I calling for
Wow.
an outright upset? No, I'm not. But I am calling for a close game. I'm
Okay.
calling for a wacky Thursday night game that sometimes happens.
All right. Fair enough.
So that's game one.
Okay.
Game two, and again, when you pick bad teams, sometimes you're picking against something happening with the other team in the game more
That's
than
right.
you're picking the bad team. The next game I'm picking is the Colts plus 5.5 over the Pats. And there's a couple reasons for this. The Pats have the Jets number, and Zach Wilson had a really, really bad game.
Yeah.
The score and the way the game played out, and a lot of factors in the game, now make people back on the Patriots bandwagon. But they're a week removed from getting blown out to the Bears at home on Monday night.
Yep.
So what are the Patriots? Who are they? What are they? Right? Like we don't know. They're 4-4. It's probably a fair record because they're so Jekyll and Hyde. I just think they don't belong being 5.5 points favored in this game.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just think the Colts can run on them. I think the Colts have a chance to be tough in this game. I think if not for Zach Wilson getting picked off 3 times, the Pats were not going to score enough they weren't going to score, but they kicked 5 field goals. Nick Folk
Sure.
made 250-something yarders.
Yep.
And so they won the game, but I don't love the Patriots. So I'm going to take the Colts plus 5.5.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
My next game is the ultimate bet against someone, even though the team is vastly the better team. My next game is to bet against Kirk Cousins on the road. And I know it's the Commanders, but they actually have a good defense. And this feels like the same game I've seen for the last 10 years when Kirk Cousins goes on the road. He takes a superior team on the road against a pretty good defense that's not a good team
Yep.
and lays one of the biggest goose eggs of all time. Like this scores like 16-13 Commanders, and everybody's like, how is that possible? And I'd be like, it's possible because he's done it for 10 years straight.
Yep.
This is in Kirk Cousins' playbook, a goose egg of a performance on the road against a good front four. And I'm going to take Washington plus 3.5 because I think he's got to have another one like that in him, Kirk Cousins. He's done it his whole career.
Okay. Perfect.
That's my third game.
Now let's hear the lock, baby.
So the lock is a scary kind of lock because the lock is actually going with a team that is playing without their best player. But I feel like despite the Panthers playing good ball, this is going to give this week. The Bengals are desperate. They just got embarrassed at home. They just got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. They're far the superior team. And now Joe Burrow's been listening to people say he can't win without Chase. They're not the same team. And he's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
He did take his team to the Super Bowl last year.
He did.
And he's got an ability to put a big game up when, I just feel like this is the spot where he gets Higgins and he gets Boyd together and he goes, you know what they're saying about us, right? We can't win without Jamar. And they just beat the doors off the Panthers, who are a bad team.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
just has been playing better, but they're not a good team. So
That's
I'm going to
true.
take the Bengals and lay 7, and it's my best bet.
Nice. Nice. I love it. I love it. So we got some good picks there. I feel good about it. What are people going to bet this week? What do you think? How strongly do you feel about these picks?
Well, I feel strongly, but I picked a bunch of bad teams. So that kind of balances my strength of my feeling. And now I
Okay.
say you bet you bet a modest price dinner out with your wife.
Modest price.
Instead of
Okay.
taking her out and what's a modest price dinner in an inflationary era like today? I don't know, $100 for a dinner. You put $100 down on these 4 games and you
Okay.
see where it takes you at the end of the day.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm
You
gonna
know,
do that and see where it takes me.
see where it takes you. Tell Trish, not this weekend, babe. I gotta throw the dinner money out on Phil's picks.
We're supposed to be going out to dinner tonight, and it's our weekly date night. So,
That's beautiful that you guys do that. We'd love to do that if we get kids that are a little bit older. It would be
well,
wonderful.
that's what happens when it's something to look forward to once your kids get
Yeah,
a little bit older.
exactly. When
The
did
kid,
you start that, by the way, as we digress from sports to talk about dating our wives on
uh,
another date?
probably, probably last year,
Oh, geez. Wait, and your oldest is how old?
16.
Oh, you only started doing it when they were 15.
Yeah,
Jeez, you waited a long time.
well, she wasn't driving last year. That's why. And with their schedules, we had to figure out how we used to do it. There's a place we go to that has a happy hour. So we used to go there. We would drop off the girls at dance, and then we would go to the happy hour, have some food, whatever, and then we would go pick them up afterward. But
Got it.
Brooke stopped dancing, and Aubrey's dance on Wednesday is only an hour. And now that Brooke's driving, makes it a lot easier. So
Nice. I like it.
it's good stuff. It's
I
good
like it.
stuff. Before we go, I picked 5 deadline trades that were made, and I want you to grade them A
Mm,
through F. That's it. Don't explain. Just give
not gonna
us
spend anything.
Roquan Smith, Chicago to Baltimore for a 23 second and fifth round pick.
B plus. Wait, who am I giving the grade to? I'm giving it to Baltimore. B
Just,
plus
no,
for
you know
Baltimore.
what? I'm just going to give you the guy and where he went, and then you tell me what you think of that. So you're saying B plus to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Okay. How
Wherever the
about
guy went to, I'll give the grade for that team.
right, right. How about Chubb to Miami?
A minus.
A minus. They gave up a lot for him. How about Robert Quinn to Philadelphia?
What'd they get? What'd they get? What'd they give up?
2023 fourth round pick.
B plus.
Chase Claypool to Chicago for a second round pick next year.
D plus.
What is it?
D plus.
D plus. And
I hate that trade. Go ahead.
And McCaffrey to San Francisco, obviously for a second, third, and fourth in 23 and a fifth in 24.
C minus.
C minus. Damn. Pretty wild.
Too much for that.
Pretty wild. And last but not least, Jerry Jones for Halloween. Did you hear about his Halloween costume?
No.
He went as a blind NFL referee.
Are you serious or are you joking?
Yeah, I'm serious.
That's amazing. That's
and
awesome.
there's talk about him being fined for that.
You can't find somebody for what they do personally. Well, there's probably a personal conduct policy. So.
I mean, give me a friggin' break. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
That's
saying.
hilarious. Jerry
And
Jones.
and congratulations to the NFL for convincing Dan Snyder to finally sell the Washington Redskins.
Did you also hear what Deshaun Watson went as?
No, what? Oh God, I'm afraid to even ask.
He went as a professional massager.
He did not.
Yeah. It's all over the news, dude. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say I figured he would just walk around naked.
I said professional massager because the word masseuse couldn't come to my brain fast enough.
I figured he would just walk around naked and ask all the women if he could have a treat.
Hey there, Deshaun Watson.
All right, my man. Great football weekend. Great show as always. Everybody,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for listening. Tell everybody you know about us, and let's keep having some fun. Keep rolling with the punches. And Phil, my man, I feel good about your picks. I think you're going to right the ship this week. And
So.
no more of this 0-3 crap. I'm tired of that. Make me some money, all right? Make me some money, or I'm sending you a bill.
Okay, I'm on it.
Everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.